All right, so I know I'm a few days late, but I wanted to talk about the upcoming PTB and the anti-tunnel, anti-camp, and anti-slug changes. Now, something interesting to note is they actually have anti-camp this time around. Last PTB, they didn't. They only had the anti-tunnel, anti-slug, and then like some crazy ass restrictions for if you kill a survivor too quick, all the gens get blocked from the killer from progressing permanently. So, turns out they don't want to do anti-face camp anymore because they implemented anti-face camp about 2 years ago and it completely got rid of face camping entirely. Like, probably in the last year, I've maybe been face camped once or twice. One was by Tombstone Myers, which was pretty funny. Obviously, they seen that clip on YouTube and just wanted to reenact it. And then once from a Bubba. Bubba can really still, he was supposed to have this mechanic to where he couldn't face camp. Like, he would hit you with a chainsaw, and if you got hit with endurance, it would cancel your chainsaw. But that only lasted for like 2 weeks, and then they got rid of it. So he can still face camp fine, but basically face camping has been completely eradicated. Now they're trying to take care of camping entirely, including proxy camping. So all survivors will see the anti-face camp bar, base anti-camp fill rate 50% slower. So it would take about 24 seconds to get your anti-camp. Now it'll be 48, but the longer you stay in the 20-meter radius, because the radius has been increased from I believe it was 12 meters to 20 meters. So now it'll increase 1 times faster, then 2 times, then 4 times. So you hang around for a few seconds after the 7-second grace period. Now it'll go back to 24 seconds. And then it'll go to or maybe it'll go to 32 seconds. And then 2 times faster will be 24 seconds. Then 4 times faster will be like 12 seconds, right? So that's kind of what it seems like they're trying to do. Keep in mind 20 meters is absolutely massive. Like it's pretty much 1/3 of Gideon, 1/3 of Midwich, 1/3 of no, I would say about 1/4 of Larry's. 20 meters is an absolutely absurd range. Hunter says a 20-meter lullaby, and I put her on the game, and I put her dead center of the map. And according to the 20-meter anti-camp, she was camping about 7 hooks at the same exact time. So it's absolutely insane how big that radius is, right? Unhooked survivors gain haste, endurance, and elusive status effects for 30 seconds. They can see the killer's aura for 10 seconds. Keep in mind, this little summary note is made by a person, not by the actual devs. But so that's why I'm adding some stuff here. So, like I said, haste, 10% haste for 30 seconds, endurance for 30 seconds, and elusive for 30 seconds, which is no aura reading, no scratch marks, no grunts of pain, no pools of blood. They will be literally impossible to catch or track unless you're watching them from the unhook. I mean, even then, if they have sprint burst and they sprint burst away from the unhook, unless you're blight, you're not finding them, right? They also get to see the killer's aura for 10 seconds in a 32-meter radius. Was 30 seconds. So, yeah. Which is a very strong perk. It used to be 30 seconds, which was batshit insane, honestly. They lose some of the effects when performing conspicuous actions. They never said. The devs said that themselves on the stream, but they don't say exactly what you lose. I know you lose the endurance. That's all I know that you lose, honestly. Up next is the killer bonuses. After completing a unique hook, killers gain the following benefits. Bloodlust for 15 seconds. Now, keep in mind, Bloodlust is different, right? Bloodlust is going to help out 115 killers more than it helps out 110 killers. So I already don't like that. You break a pallet, you lose Bloodlust. You set a trap as Trapper or Hag, you lose Bloodlust, right? You use any type of power at all, you lose your Bloodlust, right? You can't go invisible as Wraith anymore because going invisible resets your Bloodlust. Accidentally throw a knife as Trickster, you lose your Bloodlust immediately. Start a chase, immediately you lose your Bloodlust, right? And I'm sure this is going to have the same knock-on effect where if you're, sometimes you're carrying a survivor and you start a chase with another survivor because they're like hanging around for a save, trying to like stop you from getting the hook. You hook them, you're not going to get Bloodlust at all because you're going to be in the chase already, right? Then you got some perk and add-on updates, reworks maybe. We got Furtive Chase, Babysitter, Borrowed Time, Breakdown, Off the Record, and Wicked. So we got 5 survivor perks, 1 killer perk, then 2 killer add-ons. These ones from the Cenobite and the Singularity are because they shred through deep wound and can easily down somebody who's coming off of a hook right through their endurance. And then styptic syringe and styptic agent. So we'll see how that goes. The anti-slug, survivors can pick themselves up after 120 seconds. The meter feels 33% faster for each survivor that's been slugged. The longer you stay on the ground, the faster your crawling speed, and you can't recover while crawling. So you will be able to crawl faster up to 1.2 meters, I believe, per second. 120 seconds, again, this is just like before, it's permanent. So once you hit that 120-second mark, now you have infinite unbreakable. So, it's a niche scenario. I feel like it'll happen usually because, like they said in their stats, that slugging isn't very often. On average, a survivor spends 28 seconds on the ground. So 28 seconds times 3 per hook state, that's, not 120 seconds, obviously. But if you end up into situations where you have really good teams, you down a survivor, and then another survivor comes up, threatening the flashlight save, the pallet save, and then you're like, forget it. You hit them, and you're like, I'm just going to go ahead and chase them and down them. And then you down them and you pick them up and hook them. Well, the first person you downed essentially will have infinite unbreakable at that point. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. It's going to be very hard, a lot of extra stress, a lot of extra micromanaging, trying not to give survivors their infinite unbreakable. And then like I said, the more you have, the faster. So 120 seconds, then 2 slugs, 90 seconds, 3 slugs, 60 seconds, and 4 slugs, I believe, would be 30 seconds. So, which is your standard unbreakable speed. So, but then, like I said, once you get that, they all have infinite unbreakable. So, definitely something to keep in mind. I think they could just make the timer a 90-second timer and have it reset every time. Just make it literally a base. If you're really dead set on anti-slug, even though slugging is going to happen no matter what because you have to down survivors who are threatening flashlight and pallet saves, make it a 90-second unbreakable every single time. They go down, a 90-second timer starts. They go down, a 90-second timer starts. They go down, a 90-second timer starts. So that way they don't get an infinite unbreakable after 2 minutes and can infinitely pick themselves up every 30 seconds. And then if they combine it with actual unbreakable, which is a 35% increase in recovery speed, now you're looking at 24 seconds every single time, right? Like I said, definitely niche scenarios, probably not going to be happening a lot unless they're being abused by a Swift. But still, at the end of the day, you make it 90 seconds every time. And the killer pretty much will never have to worry about it at the end of the day. And they could just think, if they do end up downing all 4 survivors, okay, I got to hook the first survivor that I downed first, right? Which is usually how you want to do it anyways. But yeah. So they said the reason why they were looking at addressing these changes is because the number one reason why survivors, or I guess in the top 5 reasons for people uninstalling the game are camping, tunneling, and slugging. Well, it's like, well, yeah, dog. Let's say Dead by Daylight has 1 million players. It's a 4-to-1 ratio. So that means there's 800,000 survivors and 200,000 killer players. Of course, the vast majority of the reasons, your biggest reasons, are going to be anything that the killer is doing. Because let's just be honest, at the end of the day, most survivors are casual players. Nothing wrong with that, but they just get off work, they come home, they want to play some DBD, chill. They really don't want to try that hard. Because don't get me wrong, I play games where I just don't really want to try. I just want to kind of brain off. But they still want to win, basically, for free. They just want a nice, casual, light game where they can win without really trying and having to stress out that much. Which I don't think Dead by Daylight is the game for that. The devs are trying to make it that way, though, so I guess I'm in the wrong. But yeah, if the stats would be more accurate if there was 500,000 survivor players and 500,000 killer players, then you could have a much more accurate data representation, right? And there were a lot of problems I had with the live stream, but I'm not going to go through all that. That was just it. Honestly, at the end of the day, it was just a bunch of the devs not having any really clue what the stats really implicate. Like talking about how 40% of their matches contain tunneling, but you have no idea why they're tunneling. Like, there are survivors that force you to tunnel sometimes. They body block for healthy survivors with their base kit borrowed time and things like that. Or, you got like 1 gen left and you haven't killed anybody at all and you haven't even hooked anybody at all. And now you got to tunnel to gain pressure. So 40% of matches isn't bad. That means 6 out of 10 matches you're not being tunneled at all. That also goes to show that a lot of survivors lie when they say 9 out of 10 of my matches contain tunneling. Like, no, and we all knew this. Scott Jen made a video about it proving it wrong, that you almost never see tunneling generally, and it almost never happens to you, and it happens occasionally to someone in your lobby, right? So I think that point still stands. But yeah, there's just a lot of data. They're just looking. The problem is they're looking at spreadsheets. And I mean, I understand there is a time to look at spreadsheets. Don't get me wrong. But you got to use your brain critically, right? You got to think critically about what's happening. Because, like, for example, killers tunnel way more on Larry's than they do on Auto Haven. And he's like, I don't know why that is. Well, dog, Larry's is such a survivor-sided map. There's a million windows, a million pallets. Half the killers can't use their power on that map. Of course, people are going to tunnel on it. Auto Haven is a very free, very open map. Well, before it got reworked, so of course there's not as much tunneling on it. And yeah, it's just simple things like that just shows that they really don't understand. And a couple other quick changes. Auto Haven's getting a brighter filter. I guess this is probably, I don't like it personally, but if this helps out console players, I'm down, because man, I played console DBD like a couple months ago, and I'm like, oh, it's bad how dark it is, right? I use filters, so I'm cheating essentially, but I'm also spoiled. And then we got scratch marks. This is what I'm looking forward to the most, scratch mark color changes. I really want cyan because I do find red scratch marks very hard to track, honestly. And then Skull Merchant's getting some tweaks, and this community. I'm not gonna say that, but the people in the chat praising them for just ungutting the killer is just pathetic, in my opinion. We should not be giving them props for. So, like, a lot of these changes are what she used to be. Increase her drone rotation speed back to 105. That's what it used to be. Hindered status to 10%. That's what it used to be. Deploy drone cooldown was 8 seconds. So that's a small little buff, right? Undetectable duration nerfed, actually. Fast vault immunity scan lines are gone. That's what it used to be. And then a little nerf to survivors sitting under your drone and allowing you to get under your drone a little bit closer. And then I seen people in the comments being like, W behavior, W behavior. It's like, why? What? I'm literally speechless. I seen Revium in the chat saying W behavior. It's like, no, not W. They had Skull Merchant. They didn't know what to do with her, so they gut her. We'll rework her in a year. A year comes, fuck it. We just put it back to normal. We just ungutted her. And you're giving them props for that. You're saying W behavior. No, I don't think so. Then we got a Trickster update that's in development. I guess it's visually very cool and thematic. Will encourage new people to try them. I'm very interested to see that. Legion's removed from 2v8 because everybody was crying about him. They're going to try to rework him and add him in later. I'm betting right now they're not going to rework him at all. They're just never going to bring him back to the game because, like, how do you work him? You really can't. Frank Stone skin's no longer in the game. They want him to come to the fog, though. Obviously, he's going to be a killer, his own chapter. Why wouldn't you, honestly? And that's the end of the stream. The PTB will be on November 4th, and 2v8 will come on the 6th. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. And yeah. I guess I wanted to talk about this real quick. This is so stupid. So a completely ineffectual system, extremely disappointing if true, but basically what I expected. Not completely ineffectual at all. It definitely isn't as harsh as it was before, but I feel like people really underestimate no scratch marks, no pools of blood, no grunts of pain, wall hacks, 10 seconds or 30 seconds of 10% haste, 30 seconds of endurance. Like, that is no joke. That's no joke at all. That is insane. Those are insane buffs, so it's not completely. And they also said this too. This person has some of consistently the worst takes I have ever seen in all of my life on Dead by Daylight. Seems like it's extremely worth it to tunnel, which I agree with, actually. It still is. But they said this ended up just like anti-face camp, absolutely worthless. Which is, this sentence alone ended up like anti-face camp, absolutely worthless. is possibly the absolute dumbest statement I have ever read ever in my whole almost 6 years of playing Dead by Daylight, because the anti-phase camp change completely removed face camping entirely from the game. And now, especially that there's no Myers with a tombstone, it's gone. That's it. The only killer who's face camping is Bubba. That is it. So anti-face camp completely solved the issue. It completely eradicated it, completely gutted it, and you're going to call it worthless. No, you completely ended face camping. And this is the problem that a lot of people make. They keep calling it anti-camp, and that's what this person is doing, even though they say AFC, because they know for a fact that it completely got rid of anti-face camp. You would have to be brain dead to think that it didn't get rid of face camping. But if you think it is anti-camping, then you might think it's worthless, because it's not anti-camp, it's anti-face camp. So, yeah, absolutely moronic take. But, that pretty much sums up the Dead by Daylight forums. But, yeah, that does it for this one. I guess we'll see how these changes come on the PTB here in, a week, 2 weeks, I think. Yeah, that does it for this one. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Good stuff. I'll see you guys in the next one.